Order. The question is that the motion be agreed to. The Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Mr Speaker, members of this, the 42nd Parliament of Australia, visitors and all Australians, in rising to speak strongly in support of this motion, I recognise the Ngunnawal, First Peoples of this Canberra land. Today, our nation crosses a threshold. We formally offer an apology. We say sorry to those Aboriginal people forcibly removed from their families through the first 7 decades of the 20th century. In doing so, we reach from within ourselves to our past, those whose lives connect us to it, and in deep understanding of its importance to our future. We will be at our best today and every day if we pause to place ourselves in the shoes of others, imbued with the imaginative capacity to see this issue through their eyes with decency and respect. This chapter in our nation's history is emblematic of much of the relationship between Indigenous and non-Indigenous Australians from the arrival of the First Fleet in 1788. It is one of two cultures, one ancient, proud, and celebrating its deep bond with this land for some 60,000 years. The other, no less proud, arrived here with little more than visionary hope, deeply rooted in gritty determination to build an Australian nation, not only for its early settlers and Indigenous peoples, but those who would increasingly come from all parts of the world. Whether Australian by birth or immigration, each one of us as Australians, has a duty to understand and respect what has been done in our name. In most cases we do with great pride, but in others it is with shame. In brutally harsh conditions, from the small number of early British settlers, our non-Indigenous ancestors have given us a nation the envy of any in the world. But Aboriginal Australians made involuntary sacrifices, different but no less important, to make Australia the economic and social development that we see of our country today. None of this was easy. We cannot, from the comfort of the 21st century, begin to imagine what they overcame, Indigenous and non-Indigenous, to give us what we have and make us who we are. We do know, though, that language, disease, ignorance, good intentions, basic human prejudices, and a cultural and technological chasm combine to deliver a harshness exceeded only by the land over which each sought to prevail. And as our young nation celebrated its federation, formality emerged in arrangements and laws that would govern the lives of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. The new nation's constitution, though, would not allow for the counting of natives or for the Commonwealth to pass laws in relation to Aborigines. Protection boards and reserves were established. Aborigines in some jurisdictions were excluded from public schools. Episodic violence in race relations continued. Assimilation underwrote emerging policies, and churches heeded their Christian doctrine to reach out to people whom they saw as being in desperate need. Though disputed in motive and detail, and with varying recollections of events by others, the removal of Aboriginal children began. In some cases, government policies evolved from the belief that the Aboriginal race would not survive and should be assimilated. In others, the conviction was that half-caste children, in particular, should, for their own protection, be removed to government and church-run institutions where conditions reflected the standards of the day. Others were placed with white families whose kindness motivated them to the belief that rescued children deserved a better life. Our responsibility, every one of us, is to understand what happened here, why it happened, the impact that it had not only on those who were removed, but also those who did the removing and those who supported it. Our generation does not own these actions, nor should it feel guilt for what was done in many, but certainly not all cases, with the best of intentions. But in saying we are sorry, and deeply so, we remind ourselves that each generation lives in ignorance of the long-term consequences of its decisions and its actions. Even when motivated by inherent humanity and decency to reach out to the dispossessed in extreme adversity, our actions can have unintended consequences. As such, many decent Australians are hurt by accusations of theft in relation to their good intentions. The stories are well documented, and I thank the Prime Minister for reminding us of Lorna Fijo's experience. I will repeat two. The first was a submission given to the Human Rights Inquiry into this, and I quote, "I was at the post office with my mum and auntie and cousin. They put us in the police ute and said they were taking us to Broome. They put the mums in there as well, but when we'd been gone about 10 miles, they stopped and threw the mothers out of the car. We jumped on our mothers' backs, crying, trying not to be left behind, but the policeman pulled us off and threw us back in the car. They pushed the mothers away and drove off, while our mothers were chasing the car, running and crying after us. We were screaming in the back of that car. When we got to Broome, they put me and my cousin in the Broome lockup. We were only 10 years old. We were in the lockup for 2 days, waiting for the boat to Perth." In his black oral history, which I commend to every Australian, The Wailing, Stuart Rintoul records the pain, the thin pain of an Aboriginal woman from Walgett. And I quote, "Something else that never left my mind, my memory, was of a family of children being taken away. And this little girl, she must have been about the same age as myself. I suppose she might have been about 6. But I can still see that little person on the back of the mission truck with a little rag hat on, and she went away, and we never seen her anymore. She was crying. Everyone was crying. Things like that never leave your memory." It's reasonably argued that removal from squalor led to better lives. Children fed, housed and educated for an adult world of which they could not have imagined. However, from my life as a family doctor and knowing the impact of my own father's removal from his unmarried teenage mother, not knowing who you are is the source of deep, scarring sorrows, the real meaning of which can be known only to those who have endured it. No one should bring a sense of moral superiority to this debate in seeking to diminish the view that good in many cases was sought to being done. This is a complex issue. Faye Lyman's life is one of the many voices oral history at the National Library of Australia. Faye left her father when she was 8. She said this, "Personally, I don't want people to say, 'I'm sorry, Faye.' I just want them to understand. It was very hurtful to leave Dad. Oh, it broke my heart. Dad said to me, 'It's hard for Daddy, and the authorities won't let you stay with me in a tent on the riverbank. You're a little girl and you need someone to look after you.' I remember him telling us that, and I cried, and I said, 'No, but Dad, you look after us.' But they kept telling us it wasn't the right thing." She went on, "I don't want people to say sorry. I just want them to understand the hurt, what happened when we were initially separated, and just understand the society, that what they have done, you don't belong in either world. I can't explain it, It hurts so much.